What's up, Shelf Addicts? Welcome back to the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Today on Book Chat, we are covering the dark fantasy romance, The Never King, written by Nikki St. Crow. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, we're going to feed your shelf addiction with fun book conversations, bookish topics, and more. It's like listening in on your favorite book club. Participate in this discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official or over on the Book Clubs app. I hope to hear your thoughts on today's show. You can also find me and Casey on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support the podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe before you leave. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available right now over on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including after shows and more. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come over onto Patreon and sign up. As always with Book Chats, we talk spoilers here, so you've been warned. Without further ado, let's begin. Joining me is feature co-host Casey from Heartful of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yes, I'm glad you're here because today we are doing our very first Book Talk Made Us Read It of the year. Yes. So we are back again with what book talkers like. And today we are doing a romantic spin on things because it's February, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, fun stuff. So we are reviewing The Never King, written by Nikki St. Crow. It was published February 20th, 2022 by Blackwell House LLC. The Kindle version is 192 pages. The audiobook is 4 hours and 35 minutes. And it was narrated by a lot of audiobook narrators, including Stella Hunter, Shane East, Deontay Black, Curtis Michael Holland, and Roxy Isles. Casey, would you please read the synopsis?
The stories were all wrong. Hook was never the villain. For 2 centuries, all of the darling women have disappeared on their 18th birthday. Sometimes they're gone for only a day, some a week or a month, but they always return broken. Now, on the afternoon of my 18th birthday, my mother is running around the house making sure all the windows are barred and the doors are locked. But it's pointless, because when night falls, he comes for me, and this time the Never King and the Lost Boys aren't willing to let me go. Note, The Never King is a reimagining of Peter and Wendy. Characters have been aged up for this darker, grittier version. If you like your enemies to lovers romance with hot, ruthless, morally gray love interests, you'll enjoy The Never King and the Lost Boys. You can expect hate-kissing, fighting, bickering, and touch her and I'll unalive you vibes. Book 1 ends on a cliff.
Which it does.
Okay.
So let's show the cover art. For those of you who aren't on Patreon, you can't see it, but you can pull it up. This cover art, I'm like, yes, what is this? I want to know.
It's dark and vicious and creepy.
It's like a skull, like a skull face with red eyes. And yeah, it gives me the vibes. I'm like, okay, let's see what darkness this brings. How dark is it really? All right, what'd you think when you first closed the book, the final chapter? Yeah.
It was a little easy to guess what was happening, but like it was short and sweet. And like you couldn't hide it in the story. It was good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, that was good. And I want to read the next one. I want to know, spoiler alert, obviously, but I want to know what the 2 shadows were, his and someone else's.
It's the death shadow.
It was 2 shadows that came out of the box. They were expecting 1.
Yeah, so every island has 2 shadows. The life shadow that gives to the king, and then the death shadow that Vane has from his island. And so they mentioned it early on that,
But Vane has his.
Yeah, but that's from a different island. So the death shadow for Neverland is missing. And it's been missing this whole time, too. And nobody really cared about it because they don't care about the death shadow because they only cared about, the king's shadow is missing. So let's focus on that.
That's
but the
not
death
what I
shadow's
read.
gone.
I read that the king's shadow is the death shadow. Like, they did not want him to get it because it made him an awful leader.
Well,
yeah,
he was a terrible leader, but he had, like, the life shadow.
I know. I didn't get that at all. No, I'm going to look. I'm going to search. Nope, I didn't get that
search it
at
up,
all.
because I thought he had the life, the king, because he has the title of the king.
He does.
And when they saw those people, they called Vane the Dark One, because if you have the death shadow, you get called the Dark One. But if you're the king, you have the life shadow, you get called the king.
Okay, I'm searching the word life, and I don't see it attached to shadow anywhere. Life,
maybe it was
life.
like king shadow. I'm on page 123. I've found that on every island in the chain, the one that's claimed the death shadow is always called the Dark One.
Yep.
And on almost all the islands is the ones with the life shadow that has the title of king.
Yep. Almost.
Yeah, no, that's the same page.
Okay. So you're saying, but why did it seem like a cliffhanger that 2 shadows came out the box? What was the cliffhanger then, if it wasn't the shadows?
That's what I'm saying, is that it's the death shadow and the king shadow for the island. Like it's both the life and the death, because the death one has been missing for so long, and everybody was like, yeah, it's whatever. We just want the king shadow so Peter can be king again. Even though he was a terrible king, we still, like, he's connected to the island.
Okay. All right. I want a third opinion. Somebody, anybody that has read this book, because I don't agree. I don't agree.
Okay, so who do you think the 2 shadows are? Or what do you think the 2 shadows are?
I feel like one, it belongs to him, and one belongs to somebody else or came from somewhere else.
So like a totally different island shadow.
Yeah. I think it's because we know that the Lost Boys came from all different places. Well, his little clique of immortal Lost Boys came from all different islands and places. So I feel like his shadow is the dark shadow, and there's a second shadow. That's what I think. I feel like his is the dark shadow. Just because of what they said about him being awful before, because he had the dark shadow before. But then awful.
How did he claim the title of king and not Dark One?
Well, they just said most times, not all times. If she said only, then fine.
That's true. I'm just saying, I think he has the king life shadow, but he's just a fucking asshole and terrible.
How does one person have 2 shadows then?
Well, he didn't have 2 shadows. They were just shoving...
shadow? Okay, so let's assume you're right. Let's assume his is the king shadow. Then who belongs to the second shadow?
Well, that was the thing. Like, whoever had the dark shadow for Neverland had it taken away. Like, it's been missing. So 200 years ago, somebody took the shadow from somebody else. Tink took it from...
You know what? This will become abundantly clear in the second book.
Yes.
We'll know what's what in the second book, because I will read it and I will tell you, Casey, if you are right. I will tell you if you are right, but I will tell you if you are wrong.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's not what I read. I feel like the dark shadow is his, not the other one, quote unquote.
I mean, it would be really interesting if he was the Dark One and had the title of king, because... I mean, it fits with his personality.
Yeah. All right. So the series name is Vicious Lost Boys. The next series, The Dark One. Next in series, The Dark One. Vicious Lost Boys Book 2.
Are you going to read the blurb?
I'm not, because I don't want to spoil anything, because we're only talking about book 1. So anyway... and this is why I like it already, because it's got so many things going on. And I think that's what I like about, quote unquote, like I was telling you on text that I like fantasy with my erotica. Like, I think sex and erotica is great in books, but I think it's an icing. I'm the kind of person where I want a whole cake full of plot and other things, and I'll take the icing too. I'm not the person that just wants a bucket of icing and like a little sliver of cake sprinkled on top for decoration. I don't like it that way. So this way appealed to me more because it was more than just about the sex scenes. Yes. And to me, I thought the sex was kind of hot, but it wasn't like over the top ridiculous either. It wasn't like so far left, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, okay, let me just put this out there because we started another book, y'all. We started another book first. I'm not going to name it because I'm about to trash it.
Oh, no.
I read, it was 3 short stories. And actually, if you look at my blog, not my blog, my
Goodreads
reading vlog, you'll know what book it is. Anyway, after reading the first story, I was like, I don't like, that whole story was absurd to me. And there was nothing that I liked about it, really. It was fine. It was fine.
To be fair, just to be fair to the author, this was a short story spin-off of a trilogy. So if you had read the trilogy, you knew this character and that background. And I feel like if you knew that background, you might appreciate it more. But it's fair, like going into it cold turkey, not knowing who any of these people are or what any of this is. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And it's not as impactful as if like you spent 3 books learning about the secondary character and wanting to know more about her. And then you get her story. Like...
Okay, so probably that wasn't a good choice based on that.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
I was like, meh. I was like, no thanks. I'm like, well, can we switch? Is it too late? I mean, my God.
Fine.
And we switched and I liked this a lot more. Immediately, I liked it a lot more.
Well, in a few of our past couple of podcast talks with a certain series, you were getting really mad about all of the virginal characters and how, you know, they don't ever touch another man, they've never done anything, and you're like, I'm so over this trope. We open on page 1 with our heroine here, Winnie, just, you know, fucking a man in his truck.
I know, I love it. And she's like all about her sexuality, and she's like, openly says, yeah, fucked a bunch of people on the team. Who cares? Who cares? You know, she
thought she was going to go mad at 18, so life doesn't matter. She's just going to do what she wants to do.
Yeah, she's like, I'm about to go crazy as soon as I turn 18, so I might as well get it all out now. But the crazy thing is, she gets kidnapped, and instead of being scared, she's like, oh, that guy's kind of hot. What if I do this? What if I do that? What if I, lure them to my side with sex? I can use sex as a weapon too. So like, oh, now this makes sense because you're trying to do something. You're just not overly horny for these guys that kidnapped you for no reason. It helps that you're horny for them.
She was horny for them.
Yes, it helps that you're horny for them, but you also have a purpose.
But
2 for 1,
you know, she didn't stick to that purpose, but that's okay.
She didn't. She started to get all kind of crazy with it. And yeah, she got she want her little harem of men.
She does. She wants all of them.
Yeah, she does. And she's like loving the twins. She's like sleeping in between them. Like, oh, this is so great. Oh my God. I hope twins don't do that stuff together. No. Don't do it.
No, please don't. No touching.
No. Don't do it. She's having a good time, but please don't. I'm getting a little grossed out by it, but it's fine.
No.
So what did you think? I know you have high standards for sex scenes and hotness and spice level. How did you take it?
It was hot. It wasn't my cup of tea just because I'm not into that style of kink, but like kudos to her for going for it and enjoying it. I will say I was really happy when she got mad at Bane when he spit on her because like that's my hard no.
So he did more than just spit on her.
Yeah.
He told her to open her mouth. She did it, and then he spit. And I was like, oh my
I would have kicked him in the balls.
Lost it.
I really appreciated that she lost it in that moment too, because if she was turned on, I would have just like had to put the book down and walk away for a minute. So like
that scene, I was like, I could have like thrown up a little bit if I just,
no,
oh my God.
I was like, that is my hard limit. I do not want.
That is a very disgusting thing. That is past my limit. I couldn't believe that happened. No. And then later in the book, you guys, like, he kind of like cares for her. And I'm like, okay, this guy is crazy. Like, he is literally
absolutely insane. He is insane.
He don't know if he likes her or not. He hates her and likes her at the same time and treats her shitty and kind. It's like, that is mental abuse, I feel like.
Absolutely.
That is mental abuse.
And he has the dark shadow, so he's all kinds of fucked up. And I know they kept saying Peter was a bad king, but I just assumed that was his personality, not the actual shadow. Although Peter Pan without his shadow is fucking crazy and ripping hearts out with his bare hands.
He has no control at all.
No control. So I was like, is he worse now without the shadow, or was he just this as bad before when he had the shadow? Like, what's going on?
I don't know.
But anyway, I feel like in the box was the king and the death shadow together.
Yeah.
So
another thing that I kind of found interesting was like the play on Winnie's last name, which is Darling, because the Lost Boys would always be like, Darling, do this, Darling, this, Darling, that. But that's her last name.
Yeah.
But it seems like
an endearment.
an endearment at the same time. Like, that's interesting.
I mean, it was really cute and it was nice because like that was already part of the story. Wendy Darling and Peter Pan has been around for however long it's been around.
Yeah, but I don't think they were just Wendy and Peter, right? Peter Pan. But
her last name's always been Darling.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying like in the original material, no one was calling her by her last name.
No.
They were calling her Wendy.
Calling her Wendy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I think, unique to try to switch it that way and then to keep using the last name like that. Like,
Yeah.
Interesting.
So out of the 4 Lost Boys, who was your favorite?
I think it's the same one Wendy wanted in the end, the one that can cook.
Bass. Yeah. He was nice and rough, but also like he cooked really well.
I know. I'm like, you'll win me over with this food, okay?
You're going to keep cooking for me? Yes.
Except you're not going to force me to like scale fish and like cut up fish. Like, what was that scene? He was like really trying to make her like be grossed out or something. I don't know.
It was gross. I was skimming.
It was some
part.
random scene about fish. I'm like, okay, I don't understand this.
That was the only part that really like didn't fit with the story.
Yeah.
Like, why was it here? Why did we need it? Was it just to show that them bonding, or
I don't know. I feel like bonding was he listened to what she said her favorite food was, and when she woke up he made that food.
Right?
That was bonding.
That was bonding.
Yeah.
You don't need to cut up a fish to keep bonding.
No. And I like Bash better than Cass. Because, like, Cass, he was like, he followed the rules. Don't F the darling. He like, I won't do it. And Bash is like, F it. I'm going to do it. He's like, I'm going to go for it. And he got caught. And he was like, yay, nothing bad happened.
I might die, but I'll die happy.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that, you know. What about you?
Yeah, Bass was my favorite. He cooks. I love a man who cooks. Hands down. He's it.
Yeah, he wins.
He wins.
Yeah. I think Peter Pan is like not really an option. I feel like he is like he's the kink, right? She liked him watching and kind of doing all this stuff. He was definitely the kink. I don't think Winnie actually likes him at all like that.
I think she kind of does, but she She wants
doesn't
all
want
of
him,
them.
though. Yeah. If she had to pick, though, it wouldn't be him.
I don't know. She's kind of crazy.
Think so.
She definitely wants to have Vane at some point. Like,
oh, God. I think Vane is another kink, too. Like, once she satisfies that kink and then she figures out, like, what he's about. Like, sure, you're a part of my harem, but you're not my number one. No way. Mm-mm. He's like, fourth wife. You know?
Yeah.
You can have me once a month on a Friday, I guess. Yeah, he's not the main wife.
He's not. He's definitely not. And that's fine. He doesn't need to be. He has his own demon shadow thing to deal with.
I know. I kind of feel like, if I had to guess, I feel like the twin coupling thing would be a regular. Mm-hmm. Peter Pan sneaking in every once in a while would be her second choice. Mm-hmm. And then dealing with Vane would be like the absolute last situation.
Just because she's so wild. I don't know.
That one scene, they were all like together except for Vane. I'm like, oh my God, girl.
I mean, she liked that. She wanted all of them. She
does.
All 4 of them in a row that night.
She did. Like, she wanted that. And I'm like, girl, good for you. Good for you, though. I felt, happy that the character was firm in what she wanted, right? That was most important to me.
Yes.
It felt more that it was about what she wanted versus what these guys wanted.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, she was 100% in. She was like, I want this. This is what I want. They were being rough, but she liked it. She enjoyed it. Like, as long as everybody's happily and enthusiastically consenting to everything, you do you. And that's what she was doing. So, like,
that's how I felt. Yeah, do you, girl. It was fine.
You do
no
you.
Issues.
It's fine.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
No issues. Right. All right. I think we have more to talk about, but we'll take a quick break. Check out these commercials. If you don't want commercials, you need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Mm-hmm. Until then, we will have commercials, so please partake and listen to them and support this podcast by doing so. And don't forget to check out the book review journal available right now on Amazon. We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item.
All right, welcome back, guys. What else should we talk about? I mean, it's a short story, but I feel like there's a couple other things probably we could talk about. Oh, let's talk about her mother.
Ooh, yes.
Let's talk about Winnie's mother, Mary.
So, poor Mary.
What do you think Mary was doing to her?
Torturing her?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's not... I just want to blame Tilly, the fairy, for all of this. Because she made Mary go insane. And then Mary came home and, did everything she possibly could to keep her daughter from getting kidnapped by Peter Pan. It was absolute torture. They moved around constantly. They hired witches and shaman and all kinds of people to, like, cut her and bleed her and paint stuff on walls in her blood.
Trying to make spells and stuff. Like, that was going to work.
Nope. Never works.
No.
And
Winnie forgave her mother. She understood that was not good what she did. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't remember exactly what the passage said, but she pretty much said that was a pain I didn't have a choice in having, and no one should be forced to endure that, basically. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she knew her mother was crazy because of what the fairies had done to her. So,
and after kind of experiencing it herself, you can really empathize with somebody. And that's part of healing trauma, is going, I understand why you did this, but it still was torture and harmful and fucked me up just as bad.
Yeah, I mean, when Winnie had a choice to stay or go back to Neverland, and she chose to go. And when she chose to go, she even invited her mother. Do you want to come? She didn't even ice her out.
Yeah.
So she fully just accepted what happened and wanted to move on. But her mother chose not to go, which is understandable. She was tortured in her own situation. So I got that. But I like that they ended on a note that was reasonable for both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like that situation, although I just hated that the mother did all that to her daughter, but I guess she thought she was doing what she had to do at the time.
And as we learn, Tilly the fairy, who's going through everybody's memories, or all of the darlings' memories, she can torture you. She can change your entire brain and personality and make you go crazy. So I feel like, because Mary, we found out later, when she was 18 and there with the Lost Boys, she said she wanted to help. She said she was open. She said she wouldn't fight it. She said she was going to do everything she could to help them find the shadow. And then she came out worse for the wear. So I feel like, Tilly really fucked her up, made her go insane. And then when she got home, she had to keep her baby safe.
Yeah, definitely. Because okay, so let's talk about like the motivation of Tilly and Tinkerbell, right? It started with Tinkerbell.
Yes.
So Tinkerbell wanted
Peter Pan.
And Peter Pan fell in love with Wendy. So she was very, very jealous.
And angry.
And upset, yes. So she decided to get kind of revenge,
I guess. Yeah. She masterminded and got Wendy to steal the shadow and lock it up in a box. And then she killed Wendy as soon as it was locked up.
Yes. And then, I guess because he found out that Tinkerbell did that, he went and killed Tinkerbell. And at that point, obviously now Tilly is carrying on this vengeance. And of course, we learn through Winnie's memories, or, her locked up memories, that Tinkerbell said, you'll never have your darling, So thus it begins. And so every darling is kidnapped and grilled, every female darling at the age of 18.
Yeah,
for these memories.
Yeah.
But so what is
Tinkerbell's daughter Tilly is making sure that Peter Pan will never find these memories, even though he trusts her, because
she's supposed to be helping him.
Yep.
And she is not.
Her two brothers are the twins, Bass and Cass, and they killed their father for some reason that they still have not explained yet.
Right. So it's kind of twisted. So those two are related to her. They got banished for killing their father. And obviously, Tilly is still upset about them killing her father.
Tilly has some plan going on. We got a little sneak peek of it from her point of view chapter. But it kind of sounds like she wants to hook up with Hook, the pirates, and get rid of Peter Pan and kind of rule herself. So she's probably, I don't know if she's upset that her brothers killed her dad, or just happy that she can keep them banished for a reason so she can take charge of everything.
Well, who was she dealing with? It wasn't a shadow.
The
what
brownies.
Did Peter Pan call the brownies? Yeah. So it sounded like the brownies were kind of also pushing her toward this, because it seemed like from the brownies' point of view, she wasn't always as assertive and aggressive in this, venture as they were, right? As he was pushing her. And then she also kind of indicated something like her brothers, the twin brothers, could possibly be useful for them later. So I don't know if she thinks she could get them to do something out of guilt.
Probably.
Or, yeah.
I bet she was probably banking on the guilt. But, at the end fight scene with the brownies, they proved that, nope, they're loyal to Peter Pan until the day they die.
They are. Yeah, because they went and had a big old fight and killed them. And they're like, oh, let's bury these things.
Let's just bury all of these brownies in the backyard. Don't worry, they'll disintegrate after a week.
Yeah, which was another, like, I really liked all the little magical things.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot say enough. Like, I really enjoyed it. Much more than I anticipated. I was like, I don't know about this. Let's find out. But it was a win, so yes. I'm glad.
Yeah. Not everything on TikTok is a win, so I was very hesitant and a little worried because I was like, is it actually good or is it just
Well, you know
smut?
What made me feel a little bit better about it is when I went over to Amazon and I saw there were over 20,000 reviews and the average, average rating for those was like 4.5 on Amazon. So I'm like, wow, that's good. When I went over to Goodreads, this book had 55,000 ratings. Wow. And the average was 3.77. And that's still pretty good. That's for over 50,000 ratings.
Yeah. That's impressive.
So that made me feel instantly a lot more at ease about it. I'm like, oh, come on. I can't hate it. Not with this many people loving it. I can't. Please, God.
We can hate it with that many people loving it. We have in the past.
We've hated it. But we've done it before. Yeah. But I was feeling a little bit more hopeful. So I liked it.
I liked it too. It hit good.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it was appropriate for Valentine's Day?
Why not? You do you. Whatever you want to do on Valentine's Day.
I know. Like, can I get a little murder and death along with my romance, please?
There were hearts,
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's my style. Give me a little stabby and killing and then some romance in there. Yeah, I'll take it. I don't know. This is the contemporary romance, like the one that we read last year from BookTok, the one with the podcasting friends with benefits or whatever it was called.
Oh, Faking with Benefits?
Faking with Benefits. Okay, there it is. Now, that was contemporary, and I honestly was all out shocked that I liked that book because I don't usually tend to go for contemporary romance type books. So another reason why I thought this would be a much better choice for me. But I was honestly, with that one, I was shocked that I liked it. Honestly. So I don't know. So I guess there's hope out there for the right contemporary romance, but
yeah,
it's far and in between.
And that's okay. You know what you like. You're going to keep reading what you like. And that's what we're here for, is to read books that we like.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Oh, I want to talk about the narrators quick.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 narrators.
That's a lot of narrators.
It is. And to be honest, I couldn't tell them all apart. Obviously, I could tell the women from the men, but it started getting kind of similar to me after a while. So, like, Peter Pan's voice wasn't distinct enough from Cass's voice or Bash's voice. It wasn't distinct enough separation, and it started to sound similar. Same with the women. I feel like they could have done this book with 2 narrators, a man and a woman. They needed some accents or some different pitches or something. You know what I mean? They all kind of
sounded the same.
All the men kind of melded together and all the women kind of melded together.
So who was the second female voice?
So there was... Stella Hunter was the first one and Roxy Isles was the second one.
So was one Winnie and one Cherry, or... But Cherry didn't have a point of view.
It doesn't show assignments, so I'm going to guess, yes, Cherry did have a different voice. So maybe one was Cherry. She definitely had a slightly more poppy light voice, so maybe one was Cherry. And one was Winnie, I'm assuming. That makes sense. Those two were kind of different. But again, one person, I've read or listened to audiobooks where one person has drastically different voices. So that could have been one narrator. So there were 3 men, Shane East, Dante Black, Curtis Michael Holland. and I might have said that oddly in the intro. I don't know if Curtis Michael Holland sounded like one name or two names when I said it. Anyway, I think that those were, one was Peter, one was Bash, and probably the other was what's his name? I forgot.
Cass and Vane, though.
Cass. That's it. What was
Vane? Did Vane?
Right. So one of them did 2 men because there's not 4.
Yeah, that was
so
my
one
next
of them
question.
did 2. And I wish they would assign roles. That would help me. Like if they said Stella Hunter plays Winnie, Shane East as this and that, but they didn't do that. So it's hard to tell, and it starts to get all muddled together.
And then we jumped around points of view a lot. Like we also had the brownies' point of view at one point. And
so one of the women or one of the men or 2 of the men were doing double duty. I don't know.
So was it just one person per chapter, or were they like the actual dialogue changed with every...
No, it wasn't done like full cast. Full cast is where each section is like a different person, but this was by chapter. So if the chapter heading said Winnie, it was all in Winnie's voice, even though she would do some men, lower her octaves for the man talking, right, for the dialogue. And same for the men when they were in their own chapters. But they did do women and men in their own chapters.
I feel like if you have 5 narrators, but you're only doing the chapters, that would get annoying. Like at that point, if you have the 5 narrators, just get them together in a round table and like have everybody do their own dialogue.
See, this is the thing, though. That's the difference between an audiobook and an audio production. Because I feel like in an audiobook, they did that purposefully to tell the indicator we are changing point of views.
Okay.
We have changed because the voice has changed, But if they're all reading all of their parts for the whole book, it really starts to get lost and you can't tell whose perspective it is.
I mean, if they're just doing the dialogue, because it was all still first person. So like in Winnie's chapter, it could have been from her, but the men could have done their own dialogue.
It could have.
That's what I would have wanted.
But then what happens? Okay, yeah, I guess. I'm just kind of reading a page. Yeah, I guess it could have gone that way.
But that is a lot more expensive and difficult to do.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like from a producer standpoint, the editor standpoint, that's a lot more work to do it that way. A lot more expensive.
There are some books that do that. And I know like from talking to authors that cost over $10,000 to do. So like you have to be really, really dedicated to do it. But I know people who do it with, they have the 2 narrators, the man and the woman, and then, you do the dialogue in between.
And, sometimes on the full cast ones, not to get totally off subject, but you'll have like some extra music in there. You might have some sound effects in there. And it is a production. It's like, wow, you're really in it like a movie or something. It feels like you're listening to a movie or something. It gets so intense sometimes. Which I love. It's a different experience, though, than just an audiobook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think that the deep voices that they had for the men was like, ooh, it was nice. Nice voices. Makes it a little bit sexier when you have a nice deep tenor voice, or bass-like voice. So, yeah, good job with that. Even though I started to not be able to tell who's who, it's all good.
It's all good.
So yeah, that's all I had on the audiobook comments. And I did listen faster on the audiobook too. I think I listened at like 1.5.
Oh.
Or 1.75. Either 1. I think I listened at both of those speeds and I ended up going down to 1.5.
Okay.
So that's important for us audio listeners.
Yes.
We know. Yeah, speed up those voices, man. Anything else before we rate it?
No. It was a good story.
Okay.
Short and sweet and sexy and violent. Happy Valentine's Day.
Check. Happy Valentine's Day with a black heart. There you go. Casey, why don't you go first with your rating?
I'll give it a 4-star. Like I said, it was short and sweet and sexy and violent, and it was interesting, and I will probably read the second someday. Like, I'm not jumping to go get it right now and binge the whole thing, but like, I'm curious. Also, I want to know if I'm right or if you're right.
I know. Okay, bet. So I originally gave it 4 stars when I first finished, but after it sat with me for a little while, I changed it to 3 stars.
Okay.
I feel like it was a really good entry to start, and I will read the others, but like I paid for these on Kindle and Audible, so I could have the add-on for a cheaper price instead of spending a credit on it. And I'm like, I want to know more, but I'm not going to pay that again.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm waiting until it comes out later this month on Scribd, where I have a subscription. So I can binge the last 2 books on Scribd at the end of the month. So I too will finish, but not right away. It's going to be a couple weeks before I finish, but I'm fully going to finish.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe 2 and 3 will get 4 stars. I don't know, but
you're invested.
It was a solid start.
Yeah,
I'm invested. I want to know. I don't really care who Wendy ends up with because it'll be all of them, but I want to know the other stuff.
Yeah, she's going to take on all 4 of them, and she'll have fun with it.
Oh, yeah. Lord have mercy. Yeah. You go, girl. Woohoo. Okay, but yeah, I think actually this was also my first time reading anything by Nikki St. Croix.
Oh, yeah. This was my first time reading anything by her. I had no idea what to expect, and it was a solid book. Like, I'm excited. I might check out some of her other stuff.
Same. Once I finish with this, depending on how it ends, if I'm satisfied and happy, then I'll probably read more by her, because all of her stuff looks to be kind of in that
genre
realm that I like, so... And I do love a good retelling, especially when it's original. It feels original. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So all good stuff. Okay. I think we're done. What do you think?
I think we're done.
All right. This has been a success. TikTok did not do us dirty this time.
Woohoo. Thank God for TikTok.
Yes. Thanks, BookTokers. Yes. Good job on this one. So stay tuned. We'll have more of these throughout the year.
Yes.
You know how we do, talking trash or praising. Who knows what's going to happen? You never know until you tune in. And of course, don't forget, you can always join us in book clubs. So join us on the Book Clubs app. And you can even talk about books and other things with us on Discord. But you need to be in the Book Clubs app to join on Discord. So hopefully we'll see you there. And if that's not your thing, no worries. We'll be right here again on the podcast. And we'll talk to you later. All right, you guys, take care of yourselves.
Bye, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.